Hello, everybody, and hello, John Fuse. How are
Hello.
you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. I am so thrilled that you said yes when I sent you an email and said, would you join us on our Facebook Live? That was a great day.
Absolutely. Never will hesitate for that.
You're so sweet. So we are Facebook Live on the Auctria page, as well as the Auction Team Talk page, as well as the Eventfull RVA page. So hello to everybody that's joining us.
Awesome.
We
Yes. Hello.
appreciate you. And the Auction Team Talk page is a great place. If anybody is on either one of those and wants to join, it's a lovely group where people talk nothing but auction and event fundraisers. And John chimes in a lot, and he always gives advice and links, and he's very generous with his time. So I appreciate you for that, as well as for this.
Absolutely. It's always a good resource for folks to get some help or have questions about things. So happy to chime in when I can.
Fabulous. So this is a Facebook Live. We have some prepared slides for you. Our goal is to give you 6 tips in 16 minutes, but we might go over a little bit, and I bet that's okay because he's got a lot to share. But join us for this discussion. Feel free to drop any questions or comments that you have here on Facebook. We'll bring them up, answer them, and we will respond to every single one of them, I promise. So without further ado, I would like to know geographically where you guys are tuning in from and what kind of group you are fundraising or event fundraising for. That'd be awesome if you want to drop that in as we start and chat. It looks like one person has joined in and said hello, John and Lori. So hello back, Facebook user. You're probably coming in on the page or on the group. It doesn't like to show an image on that till it gives permission. So with that, John, I'll go ahead and pull up the slides and tell us everything. And I know you have some amazing photos on here too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm happy to do that. The Eventfull, as we're going through this, we are in the Mid-Atlantic region. So we're in Richmond, Virginia. We are a corporate nonprofit event manager, which does everything from concept design to the execution of an event of any scale. The beauty is that we like to cater to everyone. Everyone's different. Everyone has different needs and support that will help them to be successful in their event. And we want to be able to take on what they need. So that's everything from audio visual, which you see there's some production stuff here, which, as we all know, that's been this year. That has been where everyone in events has lived and hopefully become very good at it and successful with it. In addition, we also do auction management, and that's everything from setting up the website. Auctria makes life easy, but we can help support folks with that, and getting all your items imported, getting your finished web page to function the way you really want it to function. In addition to doing that on the back end of things, we can also be out there on the event night and support you from a check-in all the way through checkout process. There's a lot that goes into auctions, as we all know. And dressing up the items. I know on the next slide, there's some images of different auction tables and presentations and scales of events that people do. Adding a little life to a table with linens or colors or props are some of the additional services we help folks out with. The beauty, and especially nowadays, is we're working with people from all over. And we have in the past, we've done work from Miami, down in Miami, all the way up to New York, and then from Detroit to Houston and Dallas. So we're happy to travel and enjoy the travel if it seems right and fit for folks. But with nowadays, we can do it remote. We can be anywhere across the country and world and be connected and engage folks over platforms like this and live stream out.
Awesome.
So that's a little about us. So we can dive into the tips. The first big thing that I always push is the pre-event marketing. And that should start extremely early. Don't wait until the month of your event to start pushing things. And a lot of people do that, whether that is pushing a story, impactful story of why you do what you do, or it's teasing some items, whether that's a raffle or an auction item. Tease those things out, get people interested and engaged and wanting to be part of your event. The nice thing about pushing stuff early, especially if you have a raffle, is you sell those raffle tickets early. And that's one less thing you have to worry about as you get close to the event, because you've sold them all, you met your goal, and you can focus on doing the event and having a fun time at the event itself. So always, always, always start early. Use visuals. I would say if what we've seen is that people, especially now being virtual, is they don't just look at promoting their event the way they used to. They spend a little extra money on maybe bringing in a marketing person to help them with that, because they don't have the expense of a venue. They don't have the expense of the caterer. They don't have the expense of rental equipment anymore. So they can allocate a little bit towards the marketing, which turns, comes back to them in the end. So absolutely look into that and see what it would cost, or say, hey, here's how much I have. How can you support me? This is what our goal is, and work with them to do that. Something that goes along with it is QR codes. Now, the two outside images, those are that's one event we did, which was in person back in August. Surprisingly, we had one event over the last year that was really in person. And we wanted to make things contactless. Well, with the Auctria platform, QR codes are part of displays if you toggle it on. So we created these, which were on-site purchases using QR codes so that everyone was contactless. So they had to have their card on file. They had to scan it and pay for it on site. Being that most events are in a virtual platform, adding a QR code to a lower third, as in the middle image, is a great way to get your folks to go immediately to your site while watching. Now, it does take two devices generally, because one you watch on, the second one is where you're going to do your bidding and donations and everything. But that second device can be scanned, and actually the QR code that's right in the middle, it'll be in a teaser later as well. But that's an active one, which everyone can use, and something to take away. But use the QR codes to get people to support. The easier you make it to support, the easier it will be for you to see your revenue and funds generated. So put them everywhere. You don't have to have it up the whole time on a broadcast, but throw them up every so often and make it easy. Like I say, it's always got to be easy. In addition, what's different? Well, this year being virtual, you have to think about some things you may not have thought about before. And that's really how to engage people from a virtual platform. And to do that, as you can see, here's two different platforms. One's a Facebook. The other one is a platform called Crowdcast. That chat column is a tool, and it's a resource for you to not only see what people are saying about your event, but a way for you to engage those people as well. So what we always tell people to do is dedicate a single person of your staff who can live in a chat column. Push out messaging. If you want to shoot a link to where to donate or how to support or tease an auction item, they can do that in the chat. If it's something a little different, where it's and we'll allude to it later. If it's a game, the chat is your tool to do your game and activity, which actually the next slide is a way to add some life to your event. And we've done a few different games over the past year that have worked well and are pretty simple to do. This one was a simple, just question and answer. And what we did was we created 3 or 4 questions in 3 or 4 different categories. And our host went through and asked a question. Well, the person who was living in the chat column, and on this one, we sent it out to both YouTube and Facebook. So we had 2 individuals who were monitoring each, and they were just kind of keeping track with who was answering and whether they were correct or not. If they were correct, we gave them check marks. That way, at the end, if they were the top scorer of that category, they won a gift card. So it was also another way to keep them engaged, to provide them with something besides just the production. Guess what? Play, be interactive, be entertained at the same time. This host, he's also a comedian. So it was asking a question, allowing them to answer with giving a little bit of his comedy act, which was great. And then one category is always we focus on what the nonprofit is. So things about it, whether this instance was, what's the logo mean? That was a question which not a lot of people know, but it draws people in and gets the messaging out of who you are and what you do subtly and in a fun way that keeps people engaged. So it's fun. Another one we did was called Everyone Knows Name That Tune. That's a little bit different because you actually bring people up on stage, kind of like this, and you play some music and see who answers first. So that takes a little bit more scripting, but it's another fun, easy game to do on a broadcast. What has worked well is raffles and door prizes. The reason they worked well, I think, is because people were nervous about what their business and what their income was going to look like over the year, to do an actual raffle and participate in an auction. But it was easy for them to participate in a raffle at a lower dollar amount where they could purchase 1 or 2 tickets. And they feel like they had a better chance of winning that than in auctions. So we saw a lot better, at least on our side, return on raffles than we did on auctions over the last year. But you can mix those in along with auction items and auction packages, as well as door prizes. If you do door prizes, which keep people there throughout your broadcast, and you do them later in the event, well, guess what? You've gotten through all the mission, and you've gotten through the champion call and other aspects that you wanted to get out in your broadcast before you give them that opportunity of saying, guess what? We're going to award these, and let's see who they are. So door prizes, raffles are fantastic. And the last of the things to keep people engaged that I would say is using tickers or banners, just like you put up at the bottom here. We use the same broadcast platform that we're using today for a lot of our live streams, and you can do a lot with them. There's a bunch of different tools of running banners and tickers. The ticker across the bottom. On the image on the left, we built out an overlay which lived there the entire night. But we built it out with enough at the bottom where it didn't look like the ticker was just popping up out of nowhere. It just flowed across the entire screen smoothly. On the other one, some folks may recognize that's Adriana Trigiani. who is an author and a screenwriter and producer and all. She did one event for the Library of Virginia, and we just used the basic ones that are on the platform that we're using today. So there's different ways of doing it. It all depends on your use of an AV person to really cater to what you want to do, and your comfortability with it.
Right.
So there's a lot that can go into that. I guess the last thing I'll do is rather than a tip, I'll give you a few tools if anyone wants to use them. The QR code on the right with the Eventfull logo in it is a access to a Vimeo folder, and there's about 24 hours probably worth of broadcast currently in there, but every broadcast is different. So you may see things that you would like to incorporate. We're still moving forward in virtual world, so you got to have the resources to know what you want to do in your broadcast. So feel free to jump in there and look through things. Like I said, there's about 24 hours, so you can skim through things and just pick little subtle things up that you may like, and work if you're working with your AV company or anyone. Say, hey, how do I incorporate this? Can we do this? And it gives you that option to show them. The one on the left is a nonprofit chat group that we started a year ago, myself and a couple other folks in the Mid-Atlantic area, which has become a resource for nonprofits to just talk through what they're going through, especially with the pandemic, some difficulties they've seen, and how each has overcome different things. We try and give topics to, as regulations change, what events are looking like, or bring in a grant writer to speak about some changes they're seeing, because that's a big thing. So absolutely feel free to use those however you want. We'd love to have you come to the nonprofit chat, which is on Thursdays at 10 a.m. and that's Eastern. So if for some of you, it may be a little early. I know we saw Homer, Alaska, so that might be an early morning if you wanted to jump on to that, but we'd love to have you. But please, please, please use those however you see fit. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any comments anyone has. Feel free to shoot them in the comments section.
Absolutely. And just so you know, this is the way to stay in touch with Auctria. We post regularly to Facebook, Twitter. We have over 500 pins that go directly to donation request pages. You can binge watch all of our webinars back on our catalog. If you're watching us on our Facebook Auction Team Talk page, that's great. If you want to join us there, you can hang out and chat with anybody. And then here's how to stay in touch with John and his Eventfull team. They're very active on Facebook, and their Instagram is quite lovely also. They post a lot of photos on there, and a photo is so much more than text, as you can tell, from the slides that he presented here. John, where do you think things are going to go? Are they going to go hybrid? They're going to go full event? Look into your crystal ball and tell me what you see.
Well, I wish I had the actual answer for that. But I think people have seen the benefit of the reach that a virtual event allows them. We've seen people who are getting donations from people across the country that otherwise would not have supported because they wouldn't have been at the event themselves. Right. So I foresee, at least getting through the rest of this year, hybrid is really going to be the way or I should say, virtual is going to be the way things go through the year. But moving on from that point, hybrid is just the way things are happening. We do have a fairly large hybrid event coming up in the next month. So it's happened. We've done a few. It's just every state's different. All the regulations are different. So understanding what your individual locality is allowing you to do is step one. And where it is today and where it's going to be tomorrow could look totally different. So I think the easy thing is planning for virtual with the ability to have an in-person event. So it just is another component of it. The beauty about virtual, and I think a lot of everyone out there that's done it has said, we may not have raised as much money total as we did before, but our expenses were extremely cut by not having any people in person and the cost of venues and everything. So they actually came out even or better than they had in the past, which I think is fantastic.
Right. Not only that, it's the human equity and using all those people also and the people resources that go behind it. However, when you use a software platform or use an event planner, when something happens, you've got a built-in contingency plan. You've got plan A, plan B, plan C, and all it takes is the click of a button in order to flip that. And I know you guys, even when the pandemic hit, as well as, you know, for Auctria, come March, flipped everything to online auctions. We've been doing online auctions for multiple years already. I know you've done, you know, some virtual events too. So it's like, okay, here we go.
Exactly.
And you know, you take the stress off of the the organization, and you bear that.
Absolutely. And you know, that's one thing that you guys did really well is when the pandemic hit, you guys really jumped in and started making a lot of changes and improving the software to be able to provide all the additional, you know, resources that people are looking for. So the videos incorporated, and now the videos that pop out of the screen, so it can kind of follow you along. All that stuff is, you know, being at the forefront of what a platform can provide and the resources that are out there from an auction style platform. So that's why we enjoy working with you guys, and why it's, you know, been so great to have started doing some stuff a few years ago and seeing how you guys have grown and changed.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your time. I'm sure people will be encouraged by your advice. I'm sure they picked up a couple tidbits, because I did. I always do when I talk to you. And this will be available on playback on our Facebook page, as well as on our main Auctria website. So I always sign off and ask people or hope that your bids soar and you crush your fundraising goals. John, did you have any final thoughts you wanted to share?
Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Lori, for having me. I always enjoy jumping on and being able to provide any resource I can so that the nonprofits who are serving our communities can continue to serve our communities. That's, you know, that's the biggest goal. Keep doing the work you're doing. Exactly.
They're the heroes out there. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.